On January 21st, 2025, Ichiro Suzuki achieved a historic milestone and became the first Japanese player inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Shortly after, the Seattle Mariners announced Ichiro would become just the fourth player in franchise history to have his number retired, joining Jackie Robinson, Edgar Martinez, and Ken Griffey Jr. However, what should have been a purely celebratory moment for all Mariners fans quickly became overshadowed. A significant portion of the fan base voiced their disappointment online that the Mariners had also not retired Randy Johnson's number 51 alongside Ichiro's, which was expected by many fans to be a dual retirement for years. Randy Johnson's credentials with the Mariners are undeniable. Over his 10 seasons in Seattle, he became the most dominant pitcher in franchise history, earning a Cy Young Award, multiple strikeout titles, and leading the team to its first playoff berth in 1995. For many fans, it's baffling that Johnson's number hasn't been retired when his level of impact on the franchise was arguably just as significant as Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez, especially when other franchises routinely honor players with his level of impact, even if their Hall of Fame plaques represent other teams. This issue matters not only because it alienates passionate Northwest baseball fans, but also because it undermines the history of the sport itself. By failing to honor their icons properly, the Mariners push a revisionist narrative onto their fan base, one that erases key figures who helped shape the team's identity. In this video, we'll explore 3 Mariners icons who have been mistreated by the organization and examine how their legacies have been mishandled. From Randy Johnson to Kyle Seager to Alex Rodriguez and beyond, let's dive into these stories and what they mean for the Mariners, their fans, and the legacy of baseball as a whole. Randy Johnson, known as the Big Unit, is arguably the greatest left-handed pitcher in baseball history and recorded the bulk of his 303 wins and 4,875 strikeouts in a Seattle Mariners uniform. Over his 10 years in Seattle, he earned 4 strikeout titles, became the first Mariner to win a Cy Young Award, made 5 All-Star appearances, and delivered the franchise's first and only 300 strikeout season. These are accomplishments that most teams would honor without hesitation. Yet the Mariners have chosen not to retire his number 51. Johnson's contributions went beyond individual accolades. He was the cornerstone of the Mariners pitching staff during some of the most pivotal seasons in franchise history. In the magical 1995 season that saved baseball in the Northwest, Johnson carried a team through one of its most challenging stretches. Ken Griffey Jr., the biggest star in baseball, missed much of the season due to injury, leaving the team's playoff hopes hanging by a thread. Johnson responded with a dominant campaign, going 18-2 with a 2.48 ERA as the Mariners went 28-2 in the games he started. He won his first of 5 Cy Young Awards and led the Mariners to their first postseason appearance. His performance in the one-game playoff against the Angels, pitching on just 3 days' rest, is the stuff of legend. Equally unforgettable was his appearance out of the bullpen in Game 5 of the 1995 American League Division Series against the Yankees, where he reignited the Kingdom crowd and recorded the decisive win.
And they're going to go down and get the big guy, Randy Johnson, and listen to this ovation. Listen to this.
While it was Edgar Martinez who hit the double and Ken Griffey Jr. who famously rounded third to score, the Mariners' historic 1995 playoff run, the moment that saved baseball in Seattle, likely wouldn't happen without Randy Johnson. Despite his impact, Randy Johnson has not received the full recognition he deserves from the Mariners organization. Unlike Edgar Martinez and Ken Griffey Jr., who both received Mariners Hall of Fame honors, as well as the ultimate tribute of having their numbers retired, Johnson's contributions have been acknowledged only with a Mariners Hall of Fame induction. Adding to the frustration, Johnson has not appeared at a Mariners event since 2013, when Griffey was inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame. His absence speaks volumes about a fractured relationship between the pitcher and the organization, one that has gone unaddressed for years. For a player who played such a crucial role in Mariners history, saving baseball in Seattle during the 1995 season and becoming the most dominant pitcher in franchise history, this lack of recognition feels like a glaring omission. Yet the Mariners continue to distance themselves from one of their greatest players, a decision that many fans have viewed as petty and short-sighted. While other organizations have gone out of their way to honor players with similar credentials, even those who may have had strained relationships with their teams, the Mariners seem to be stuck in a cycle of revisionist history that undermines both Johnson's legacy and the passion of their fan base.
A great ovation because this more than likely will be his final appearance here at Safeco Field as an active player, and everybody to their feet for Randy Johnson. He tips his cap. A great gesture.
This lack of recognition is even more puzzling when you consider Johnson's loyalty to the team and repeatedly expressed his desire to remain in Seattle. However, the Mariners prioritized extensions for Ken Griffey Jr. and Alex Rodriguez, leaving Johnson feeling undervalued. Even Ichiro Suzuki recognized the importance of Johnson's legacy. When Ichiro joined the Mariners in 2001, he requested Johnson's blessing to wear the number 51, promising to honor it and never bring shame to it. This gesture speaks volumes of how much Johnson meant to the franchise and to baseball as a whole. Ichiro himself understood that 51 was more than just a number. It was a symbol of greatness. Today, Randy Johnson's absence from Mariners events speaks to a fractured relationship. He hasn't appeared to a team function since 2013, a glaring reminder of how the Mariners have mishandled their franchise icons. Retiring his number would not only mend fences, but also give Johnson and the fans the honor he rightfully deserves. Alex Rodriguez, or A-Rod, is one of the most polarizing and iconic figures in baseball history, but his impact on the Mariners cannot be overstated. Drafted first overall in 1993, Rodriguez quickly ascended to superstardom and became one of the greatest shortstops in baseball history as a Mariner. By the time he left Seattle, Rodriguez was already fourth on all-time home run list for shortstops, trailing only Vern Stevens, Ernie Banks, and Cal Ripken Jr. During his 7 seasons with the Mariners, A-Rod earned 4 All-Star selections, 3 Silver Slugger awards, and finished runner-up for the American League MVP in 1996, and he became the second youngest player to ever win a batting title. His unparalleled combination of power, speed, and defense redefined the shortstop position, making him a cornerstone of the Mariners' success throughout the 1990s. Rodriguez's departure for Texas in 2000 was undoubtedly controversial, but it is long past time for the Mariners to reconcile with his legacy. Like other stars of the steroid era, Rodriguez was a product of his time, an era that baseball as a whole has begun to confront and contextualize. Teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Chicago Cubs have taken steps to honor controversial players, with the Pirates honoring Barry Bonds in 2024 despite his well-documented controversies, and the Cubs opening the door for Sammy Sosa to return. These moves demonstrate an understanding that the game's history cannot be rewritten, but must be embraced in its entirety. By contrast, the Mariners have remained silent on Rodriguez, perpetuating a revisionist narrative that erases one of the most talented players in franchise history from their story. Rodriguez's name is rarely mentioned in team broadcasts, ignored on social media, and absent from all team functions. This deliberate omission isn't just a slight to A-Rod, it's a disservice to Mariners fans who supported him during his formative years, and to the broader baseball community, which recognizes his brilliance. The Mariners' continued failure to acknowledge Rodriguez also positions them as outliers in a sport that is gradually coming to terms with its past. Instead of honoring Rodriguez's undeniable contributions to the franchise, they've clung to grudges and acted as moral gatekeepers. This approach alienates passionate baseball fans, undermines the team's legacy, and disregards the fact Rodriguez helped lay the foundation for the Mariners' success during the most pivotal stretch in their history. Despite the Mariners' cold shoulder, Rodriguez has taken the high road in recent years, praising Mariners fans for their support.
I don't care what comes out of their mouths. I still love them.
And expressing a desire to reconcile with the team. In a 2024 interview on Brock and Salk, he even shared his hope for a ceremony to celebrate his contributions in front of fans who watched his career blossom.
And again, I wish that one day I have an opportunity to go up there with my daughters and thank them. And I still think about my number 3 jersey that I wear and is so special to me. It's where I started my career. It's who drafted me. Roger Youngward drafted me number 1. I thought we had some of the most fun, exciting teams. It builds a lot of young people's memories.
The fact that he has an extended olive branch makes the Mariners' silence even more baffling and frustrating for fans who value the full history of the franchise. For an organization that claims value to its fans and its legacy, the refusal to reconcile with Rodriguez sends a troubling message. It suggests that the Mariners are more focused on maintaining selective narratives than on honoring the players who helped build their franchise. If the organization begins to take meaningful steps, acknowledging Rodriguez publicly through social media, broadcasts, or small gestures of reconciliation, it could open the door to something once thought unimaginable, a Mariners Hall of Fame induction. Such a moment would not only serve as a significant step towards embracing full history of the franchise, but would also provide closure for many Pacific Northwest baseball fans who, despite the viewpoint of many Mariners supporters, recognize Rodriguez's place in the team's legacy and history. Kyle Seager epitomized loyalty, grit, and consistency during his 11-year tenure with the Seattle Mariners. Debuting in 2011, Seager quickly established himself as a cornerstone at third base and one of the team's most reliable players. Over the course of his career, he earned an All-Star selection in 2014 and won a Gold Glove the same year, showcasing his elite defensive skills. Seager also provided steady power at the plate, hitting 20 or more home runs in 8 of his 11 seasons. By the time he retired, he amassed 1,395 hits, 242 home runs, and 807 RBIs, placing him among the franchise's all-time leaders in several offensive categories. Beyond the numbers, Seager's impact was defined by his durability and leadership. He played in 154 or more games in 6 consecutive seasons, embodying the kind of consistency that every team values, but few truly appreciate. For a franchise that struggled to build a winning culture for much of his tenure, Seager was one of the few constants, a player who showed up every day, performed at a high level, and gave his all for the organization. However, Seager's relationship with the Mariners began to sour late in his career, and his departure from the team was marred by controversy. In February 2021, then Mariners president Kevin Mather made disparaging remarks during a Rotary Club event, referring to Seager as overpaid, despite acknowledging him as a future Mariners Hall of Famer.
Kyle Seager, this is probably his last season as a Mariner. He will be a Mariner Hall of Famer when he's done playing. Probably overpaid.
In his final game at T-Mobile Park, Seager received a heartfelt send-off from fans who gave him a standing ovation as he left the field in tears. The moment underscored how much Seager meant to the franchise, even as the organization's leadership failed to give him the respect he deserved. On December 29, 2021, Seager announced his retirement from baseball, bringing an end to a career marked by quiet excellence. Despite his significant contributions to the franchise, the Mariners have not invited Seager back for any events since his retirement. This absence is a stark contrast to how other teams honor their longtime players, often bringing them back for ceremonial first pitches, Hall of Fame inductions, or even just to celebrate the anniversaries of key moments. For a player who represented the Mariners with dignity and class for over a decade, this lack of recognition feels like yet another example of the team's mishandling its icons. Fans who watch Seager's consistent excellence and loyalty are left wondering why the organization has not done more to acknowledge him. His absence from team events only deepens the divide between the Mariners and their fan base, many of whom view Seager as one of the last true embodiments of the team's core values. The Mariners have a responsibility to mend this relationship and ensure that Kyle Seager's contributions are celebrated properly, whether through a Mariners Hall of Fame induction, a ceremonial event, or simply reaching out to bridge the gap. The team owes it to both Seager and their fans to recognize one of the most dependable players in franchise history. The Mariners are at a crossroads. While Ichiro Suzuki's Hall of Fame induction and number retirement were rightly celebrated, the organization's handling of its other franchise icons leaves much to be desired. From Randy Johnson to Alex Rodriguez and Kyle Seager, the Mariners have consistently fallen short in honoring the players who shaped their history. This issue isn't about recognition, it's about respect for the players, the fans, and the history of the sport. For Northwest baseball fans, the team's revisionist approach to its legacy is deeply frustrating. Passionate Mariners supporters, many of whom are baseball fans first, deserve to see their franchise honor the full scope of its history. Ignoring players like Johnson, Rodriguez, and Seager alienate those who cherish the team's past and undermines the hard-fought moments that define its identity. The 1995 playoff run doesn't happen without Randy Johnson. The franchise's transformation in the late 90s doesn't happen without Alex Rodriguez. And Kyle Seager's consistency and loyalty kept the team afloat during one of its most turbulent stretches. These are players whose contributions demand recognition. This latest incident, the decision to not retire Randy Johnson's number 51 alongside Ichiro's, is just the latest reminder of a larger issue. Combined with the Mariners' historically cheap spending habits, something that has already alienated many fans, it only exuberates the apathy creeping into the fan base. The Mariners are wasting a championship window, and their failure to honor their icons adds insult to injury. It's time for the Mariners to start acting. They must take meaningful steps to recognize the players who made the franchise what it is today. Retiring Johnson's number would be a powerful first step in repairing the fractured relationship with both Johnson and the fans. Acknowledging Alex Rodriguez's contributions with a public gesture or event would demonstrate that the organization values its long history over petty grudges. Bringing Kyle Seager back for a proper celebration would go a long way in showing loyalty to those who were loyal to them. Baseball is a sport built on legacy and tradition. The Mariners have an opportunity to embrace their full history and give their fan base something to rally behind, but it requires action, not just words. The time is now for the Mariners to honor these players and respect the history of the game. Anything less is a disservice to the sport, the team, and the fans who supported them through it all.